Over his last 5 games, Mikal Bridges has been averaging 18 points on 50% from the field, 40% from three, and 91.7% from the free throw line. He's really been showing a lot of his growth over this stretch of games, operating as a primary option, scoring and facilitating, and doing a much better job of blending both of those specific roles within the function of the team's offense. Also, obviously, while being completely and severely undermanned. So I want to dive into the film on him, as well as some of the defensive trends I've been seeing, just with the little consistencies within their rotations and attention to detail. And then also some of the three-player actions have been seeing a little bit more juice of late. So let's go ahead and dive into it. All pertaining to the game from Memphis on Monday, on Martin Luther King Day. All right, this first play here we're going to see something that we've been seeing a lot more of consistently is Mikal having guards, specifically point guards and smaller point guards matched up on him taking them, walking them to the post and going against them in mid-post isolation, as we see here, with good patience, good reading of the help defense to come, because it's a mismatch, and just understanding what he's doing with his positioning and how to maneuver himself to the basket. As you can see here on the catch, he's deeper than he initially wanted to be. He's got help from the elbow coming from Jaren Jackson Jr., and then he sees Steven Adams, who's on DeAndre Ayton, under the basket, 2-9 in anticipation of him trying to make an attempt to go baseline on Ja Morant. So good patience here from Mikal. And then he gets into the spin move at the same time as he sees Adams going to 2-9. As soon as he puts his foot down, 2-9 and trying not to get a 3-second violation while also showing help for rim protection purposes under the basket. The meaning of 2-9. So he gets to that 2-9 point with Adams. As soon as he sees that foot go back, he spins to go baseline on Ja Morant, gets the leverage with his shoulders, and gets up a quick finish before Adams can recover from the other side of the basket. Just great awareness from Mikal and continuing to show his growth as a player, as a scorer, and of course as a playmaker, as we'll see coming up shortly. And then next we're going to see him in transition, just showing how comfortable he is right now. The mid-range pull-up, again, the newest member of the MIDI committee. Look at how comfortable he is. This is a 1-on-2 scenario, really 1-on-3 with Bane coming in from the backside there. And he's just comfortable enough to rise from the free throw line and just knock that down in rhythm. All right, this next play here, we're going to see the Suns going into some zoom action. And then it's Mikal off the catch and shoot. On catch and shoots over these last 5 games, he's at 50% on 2.4 attempts. So it just speaks to him blending together his total package as a scorer, as a general player functioning on the offensive side of the ball. All right, here we're going to see one hiccup that I did notice that's been somewhat consistent, but it's a growing pain and something that you kind of have to massage out as you see a up usage from him as an initiator in the offense. So the Suns are going with some spread pick and roll here. And here he just kind of gets a little bit too deep into the help from the nail by Ja Morant, who's aggressively playing the nail here, and they end up getting a steal, and they're going to get a bucket off of this. But just looking at, first of all, even before that, DeAndre Ayton has to get contact on Dillon Brooks here to create some type of separation for Mikal, though Mikal could do a little bit more to set up and mitigate the turnover part of it by taking some retreat dribbles as he sees Ja Morant essentially putting 2 on here. He could take some retreat dribbles and give himself some space to function, but that's all going to come with growth as his processing speed continues to evolve. Nonetheless, he gets the turnover here, and the Grizzlies are going to end up getting a bucket off of this in transition early in the game. All right, so as we fast forward to his next rep, initiating and pick and roll, we're going to see him do a better job with his processing. Also going to see DeAndre Ayton do a better job actually setting a screen and laying the wood on Mikal's defender here. So you see that good contact. Now he's downhill. He gets the separation to have his defender trailing on his backside. And then he's going to, again, with the growth, he's not going to get sucked too deep into the paint and trying to get pressure on the rim and generate a reaction out of the defense. He takes what they give. He can see that Williamson's giving just enough nail help for him to get this pass off, catches him in between strides, and is able to hit Damian Lee for another knockdown for him. All right, and then here we're going to see just a very, very impressive play here from Mikal. Again, so back in pick and roll again. And then Just looking at his growth, this is essentially all of his growth in one play here. All of them in one play. So as I rewind it here, we're going to see Mikal's initiating in pick and roll. So he gets a dribble handoff initially. Bane goes under, so they immediately flow into the rescreen to force the over and springboard him downhill. They get that. Steven Adams is up to touch and then retreats in his drop to kind of just up the tempo a little bit in the pick and roll and stay at the level between Bridges and Ayton as well, as Bridges comes off to kind of take away that angle on the pocket pass with him being up to touch. So Mikal does a good job stringing that out while also making his defender trail and reading the low man, who is Ja Morant, who's on the opposite block at the moment. Mikal sees all of this in real time, goes up to fake the shot to suck up the attention of both of these two players, being Adams and Ja Morant, and then hits the skip over to the opposite corner, and that allows for the Suns to play an advantage as the Grizzlies defense is now rotating. But Mikal's job's not done, as after he makes the pass, he stumbles and he's kind of out of the picture on the baseline there, gets back into the fold on relocation, starts the advantage, and then finishes it by adding another one of his growths and one of his strengths in attacking closeouts. This is a long closeout here for Desmond Bane. He runs him off the three-point line, but he's completely out of position here on the closeout drive from Mikal. And then again, speaking to his growth, he's always been one of the better finishers, but he's been showing a lot more craftiness around the basket of late, more than anything. And we're going to see a lot of that here on display for the N1, finishing on the other side. Again, under the rest of the shot clock, no less. So everything's decision-making wise is expedited with the pressure of the clock dwindling down on you. And this is just unbelievable. He has 3 Grizzlies going to attempt a block here, and he goes almost Michael Jordan style against the Celtics in his heyday, finishing on the other side of the basket. This was just all impressive for an N1. All right, and then here we're going to look at some of the Suns' 3-player actions and some of the juice that they've had specifically in those actions of late. So we got 2 reps here. This first rep is going to be coming in semi-transition. We're going to see Damian Lee, but looks like he's going to be going into their away action. He's going to end up rejecting this, and after the reject, they're going to sprinkle in what looks like it's going to end up being Spain, because they're notorious for doing so. It's not going to be Spain, however. It's going to be Spain adjacent, essentially, which is going to be roll and replace. So they put a little get action in with Saban Lee, and that kind of changes up the pace of everything. They end up getting a switch here from Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jones ends up going down to switch over to Landale. As that happens, typically when it's Spain, there will be a back screen set from Damian Lee, who's under the basket here. Instead, on Landale's roll, he's going to also jump and lift up to the top of the key to replace. So you got the roll here from Landale, and you got the replace at the top of the key here from Damian Lee. They get the switch, so they end up throwing it into the post, and Landale's able to get a basket here before they can kick out switch, and before Brandon Clark can come over and rim protection to help over, and that ends up being an N1. All right, in this next play here, we're going to see actual Spain. So we're going to see the ram screen set from Mikal Bridges. He's going to stick around right under Ayton as he sets the screen on ball. There's not really any screening going on because, Ayton hadn't been doing a good job screening this entire game. But Mikal is just up to touch just to get a reaction. And that touch ends up keeping Ja Morant on the strong side of the screen, which allows for Mikal to veer back. And that keeps Ja out of position. And again, with the 3-player action on the pop, he's able to have Ja Morant in rotation. And that allows for Mikal to attack a closeout, which is one of his most obvious strengths. He does that, gets fouled, and has the wherewithal to get up a shot and gets an N1. All right, and then these final 2 plays here, we're going to be talking about defense here. So this is late in the first quarter again, 7.8, 7.9 seconds on the clock here. And the Grizzlies are going to go with some Ram ghost action. So they set the Ram screen here. As you can see, Clark setting the screen for Bane. The Suns are switching late in the clock. And then after the switch, Jock Landale's in show and recover, but he's showing as Bane ghosts. So Bane ghosts, and there's no switch there. So essentially, initially he was wide open. But look at Jock Landale. I mean, not Jock Landale, excuse me. Look at Josh Okogie here, who switched with Jock Landale onto Brandon Clark. He's now at the elbow. Watch this stunt here. Bane wants to catch and go, but the stunt from Okogie stops him from initially going to the basket, makes him wait an extra second, and now Kogi's on the block on the switch, and his job's not done. As I mentioned always, one of his best skills and things that he brings to the table is his positioning on defense. It's a skill, it's a skill, it's a skill. He anticipates after stunting to thwart the initial look at the basket on the drive from Bane. He stunts, and then he gets back in position, anticipating the drive here, beats him to the spot, again, late in the clock at the end of the first quarter, and with his position, then draws a charge and gets a stop for the Suns to put a stamp on an impressive first quarter, especially while undermanned. And then on this last defensive rep here, we're going to see the Suns, again, defending. This one's getting somewhat late in the shot clock. They end up going with switching after the Grizzlies try to go again with more Ram Ghost action. And look at Damian Lee. Again, knowing the scouting report, knowing Ja loves to get to his left hand and get downhill as quick as possible, he jumps and slides, walls him off from the paint, and dislodges the ball some, but he stays solid. Doesn't do too much to pick up a foul. The job's done there. Stops the initial drive. And as they set up for Ja Morant's revving up for the next dribble drive, as you know he wants to do, look at the help defense provided from the elbows from Torrey Craig as well as Mikal Bridges, closing that airspace, forcing him to make a pass here. He obliges, and then now it's Torrey Craig playing one-on-one in the shot clock with 4.1 seconds left on Jaren Jackson Jr. And he's able to hold them off just enough, walling them off from a straight line drive to the basket, and they get a stop. In certain moments throughout these games, they've been nailing the little things in terms of with their three-player actions having juice, Mikal Bridges especially having juice as a scorer, and also blending his playmaking in with everything. And then their defensive awareness and moving on the string. And it's been good to see these little things, even amidst this tumultuous stretch while being injury-riddled.